Alright, let's get honest for a moment. What about this tale? It's intricate. It's not something I ever imagined I would share with anyone, much less a crowd of people online. Yet, here I find myself, feeling the urge to express what's on my mind. Here we go. I am 47 years old. Separated. Single child. Honestly, it feels like my life is stuck in a loop. Like a tired old tune. I work as a nurse during the night shift. It's the sort of role that exposes you to experiences that challenge your perceptions, and eventually, you find a way to adapt to it all. One becomes accustomed to the unusual hours, the relentless fatigue, and the tales that send shivers down your spine. So, what does that imply for my life beyond work? Hardly exists at all. Each day I head to work, return home, attempt to find rest, and then repeat the cycle once more. 5 evenings each week. It's a pattern that has woven itself into the fabric of my existence. Yet, there remains a single thread that prevents me from utterly unraveling. Striking down the pins. Honestly, I understand it may come across as something your grandmother might do. Yet my affection for it is undeniable. Serves as my refuge. Last year I decided to join a league seeking a new activity, and to my surprise I found that I have a knack for it. I actually managed to qualify for a tournament. An authentic, genuine tournament just 3 hours away. My excitement was through the roof. I had dedicated months to my practice. It felt as though a fragment of my past, from the time before the divorce, was resurfacing. But then, the truth of my circumstances struck me with overwhelming force. Who was set to look after my son? He's just a kid, really. And he possesses, shall we say, a certain defiance in his character. He's not really the type of child you can trust to be on his own for an entire weekend. Previously, I returned home only to discover that one of his friends had chosen to assess the structural integrity of my garage using his truck. Black Beauty. So I considered, well, his father. He will take him. Yet, as it often happens, destiny, or perhaps simply the whims of Murphy's Law, had different intentions. What? That weekend. Ideal moment, wouldn't you say? Seems I've hit a wall. This tournament is a must-attend for me. I've been putting in a lot of effort, and I can't just leave my son by himself. Thus, I took the action that any diligent, albeit somewhat frustrated, mother might take. I gathered our things and made my way to the hotel. The property featured a pool indoors. I got out of bed, stretched my limbs, and headed to rouse my son. He lay in a deep slumber, nestled snugly beneath the blankets. I nudged him softly, and he let out a groan before turning onto his side. I mentioned that I was heading out for breakfast and inquired if he would like to join me. He uttered a few words about pancakes, which made it clear he was awake. We made our way to the hotel restaurant, which featured the usual spread of a hotel breakfast buffet. Chewy eggs, crunchy bacon, and those tiny muffins that always seem to lack moisture. My son piled his plate high with pancakes and syrup, while I chose a more prudent omelette. We lingered in the stillness, savoring our meal, relishing the serene morning atmosphere. After breakfast, I inquired if there was anything he wished to do before I needed to return to the bowling alley. He brightened instantly. He mentioned that there's a mall close by. They possess a GameStop. I've been searching for this game and it seems they might have it in stock. Honestly, malls aren't really my thing. They're bustling, loud, and they consistently give me the impression that I'm overspending. However, my son is not one to make many requests. He's a genuinely good kid without a doubt. Thus I consented. We made our way to the mall, bustling with crowds, and went directly to GameStop. He discovered the game he had been searching for, a pre-owned title that, for reasons unknown, was priced at nearly $60. I was utterly astonished. Are you kidding me? His excitement was palpable, and since he rarely makes requests, I couldn't help but let out a sigh as I reached for my wallet. I purchased the game and he smiled at me, a sincere, joyful smile that made it all worthwhile. We lingered for a few more hours at the mall, indulging in window shopping and observing the ebb and flow of the crowd. It was genuinely pleasant, enjoying some meaningful moments together, just the two of us. It brought back memories of his childhood, those carefree days before the turmoil of adolescence set in. That evening, as I returned to the bowling alley, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Feeling refreshed after quality time with my son, I was prepared to deliver my finest performance on the bowling lane. Interestingly, I perform better at bowling when I'm feeling fatigued and under pressure. I slipped from second place down to fifth. It was exasperating, yet I made an effort to maintain an optimistic outlook. One of the girls I bowl with back home, Sarah, has actually taken home the trophy from the tournament. I felt immense joy for her. She has put in a tremendous amount of effort, and she truly earned it. Following the awards ceremony, several of us chose to head out and celebrate. They extended an invitation, and I assured them of my attendance, provided I wouldn't be the one behind the wheel. The bar we visited was conveniently located just across the street from the hotel, which was ideal. Honestly, who feels like driving after a night of festivities? We ordered drinks, and I chose to treat myself a bit. I don't indulge in drinking often, but I appreciate a glass of wine from time to time. Let's just say I indulged a bit beyond a single glass. We shared laughter, engaged in conversation, and rejoiced in Sarah's victory. It was a delightful experience. I believe I finally found my way back to the hotel around 1 a.m. I felt a pleasant buzz, accompanied by a sense of joy and tranquility. I stepped into our room, finding my son peacefully asleep in his bed, the glow of the TV illuminating the space around him. A smile crept across my face as I contemplated the serene expression he wore. I made my way to the bathroom, slipped into my pajamas, and returned to settle into bed. The room seemed to swirl, though in reality it was still. I settled my head against the pillow, drew the covers around me, and attempted to immerse myself in the film flickering on the screen. Yet, for some inexplicable reason, sleep eluded me. I found myself lying there, reflecting on the tournament, my son, and the broader aspects of life. It must have been close to 3 a.m. when I noticed my son shifting in his bed. I glanced at him, noticing the rhythmic rise and fall of his blanket. My initial thought was, is he? It's a completely understandable thought for any parent, wouldn't you agree? Particularly when it comes to a son in his teenage years. He crept along, deliberately slow, likely under the impression that I was in a deep slumber. As I continued to observe, my curiosity deepened. It may seem strange, but it's the reality. A peculiar wave of excitement began to wash over me. I found myself pondering the injustice of it all, yet I was powerless to resist. I felt a rush of excitement, aware of his actions just a few feet from where I stood. It was a feeling shrouded in secrecy, a delightful transgression, and it was utterly captivating. After about 10 minutes, I found myself experiencing emotions that had long been dormant within me. I found myself pondering, will he ever? Perhaps it was the wine or perhaps the solitude, but I reached a breaking point. I suddenly asked, do you require any assistance with that? I considered that if he declined, I might simply feign sleep talking. To my astonishment, he agreed. And that's when it dawned on me. What shall I do next? That solitary word, yes, lingered in the atmosphere, a clear and irrefutable reality. It felt as though a switch had been activated, a barrier shattered. The possibilities and regrets slipped into the background, giving way to an uncanny feeling of destiny. I felt like an observer, detached from the unfolding scenes of my own existence. A peculiar sense of detachment washed over me, as if reality itself had slipped away. It felt like I was transcending my physical form, shedding the limitations imposed by ethics and the norms of society. I rose to my feet, a peculiar numbness coursing through my legs, and made my way to his bed. The room was enveloped in the gentle illumination of the TV, creating elongated, warped shadows that swayed across the walls. I paused at the brink of his bed, my heart racing within me, a wild rhythm echoing in the stillness. The warmth emanating from his body was undeniable, an inviting heat that beckoned me nearer. I paused briefly, my hand lingering just above the blanket's edge, a quiet inquiry suspended in the atmosphere. With careful intention, I extended my hand and gently lowered the covers, exposing him just enough to catch a glimpse. He lay there, his eyes wide, a blend of astonishment and an elusive emotion, something I couldn't fully grasp. His hand remained encircled around himself, a quiet acknowledgement of the moment I had intruded upon. I lingered for a moment, gazing at him, attempting to comprehend the unfolding situation. It felt as though I was gazing upon an unfamiliar face, an incarnation of my son that was entirely new to me. It was an odd blend of recognition and novelty, a merging of boundaries between mother and something beyond. An undeniable force drew me in, compelling me to reach out and connect with him. I extended my hand, a slight tremor coursing through my fingers, and softly removed his hand. His skin radiated warmth, a hint of moisture clinging to it, the feeling sending a delightful shiver along my spine. "Here," I murmured softly, my voice just above a whisper. "Allow me to assist you with that." I averted my eyes, following the contours of his form, the delicate bends and sharp edges that felt both known and oddly fresh. I could perceive the signs of his awakening, the delicate shifts that indicated the journey from youth to maturity. I started to draw nearer, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced longings and taboo reflections. I observed my hand start to shift, my fingers carefully outlining slow, intentional designs along his form. It possessed a gentle quality while maintaining a robust presence. The interplay was utterly captivating. I sensed my breath quickening, my body reacting to the illicit caress. I observed as the clear fluid started to form, a shimmering droplet at the apex. I leaned in, my tongue flicking out to savor it, the salty flavor igniting a spark of energy within me. He flinched at the touch, a quiet gasp slipping from his mouth. "Would you like me to?" I murmured, my voice thick with longing. He nodded, his gaze locked onto mine, a wordless request shimmering in their depths. I bowed my head, my lips grazing his skin, the feeling igniting a surge of warmth within me. I enveloped him with my lips, the flavor and sensation igniting a wave of delight throughout my entire being. As I shifted, I sensed his fingers weave into my hair, softly tugging. I whispered to him, my voice low and husky, that if he dared to pull, he might just enjoy the outcome. He tugged gently, and I experienced a fresh wave of longing. I urged him to intensify, and he complied, while I reciprocated with a firm grip. The feelings were intense, a blend of enjoyment and remorse, of longing and embarrassment. It felt as if I were ensnared in a tempest, swirling and shifting under the influence of powers I could not command. I sensed his body tighten, a shiver coursing through him as he approached his peak. His release was intense, a wave of warmth that enveloped my mouth, a flavor that felt both known and taboo. In the aftermath, a profound silence enveloped the room. We reclined together, our forms entwined, our breaths blending softly in the stillness of the room. The atmosphere was heavy with unexpressed feelings, burdened by the gravity of our recent actions. "We mustn't let this become routine," I murmured at last, my voice scarcely above a whisper. I recognized it as a falsehood, a frantic effort to hold onto a shred of normality. Yet the words resonated with a sense of emptiness, devoid of substance, akin to a vow I understood I could never fulfill. We attempted to converse, to unravel the events that had transpired, yet language felt insufficient. The feelings were intensely vivid, intricately layered, and deeply intertwined. And then, as if compelled by an unseen energy, we gravitated towards one another, the longing flaring up like an uncontrollable blaze. He requested it once more, and I realized I couldn't say no. The guilt lingered, a persistent whisper in the recesses of my thoughts, yet it was eclipsed by an intense wave of longing. "Oh my goodness," I thought, "is he prepared once more?" I questioned whether it was wise for him to have arrived so soon, and soon my thoughts began to swirl with a flurry of other possibilities. The boundaries separating mother and son, as well as those distinguishing right from wrong, became hazy, twisted, and nearly vanished. We found ourselves ensnared in a tempest of hidden longings, a ballet of fervor and remorse, a clandestine bond that would eternally unite us. In that moment we found ourselves, reflecting on all that had transpired. The atmosphere in the room was dense, laden with unvoiced feelings, burdened by the gravity of our actions. I understood at my core that what transpired was fundamentally wrong in every sense of the word, morally, ethically, and beyond. Yet the guilt, that burdensome, stifling sensation, it was momentary. It would arrive in surges, overwhelming me, only to pull back, leaving a peculiar, nearly disquieting feeling of expectation in its wake. I repeatedly reassured myself, this cannot occur once more. I attempted to engage in a dialogue with my own thoughts, seeking a path to harmonize our actions with the truth of our connection. Yet, the reality was that the boundaries had become indistinct, perhaps even completely wiped away. The deeper I delved into it, the clearer it became to me. I had no desire to wipe them away. It felt like a hidden truth, an exhilarating rush that throbbed just below the veneer of our mundane existence. The remorse, the embarrassment, they lingered, hidden in the darkness. Yet, they found themselves enveloped by an unusual, nearly intoxicating feeling of control and longing. A sense of foreboding settled over me, confirming that this was far from the conclusion. This was merely the start. Fresh start awaits. A web of complexity, a touch of peril, an exhilarating rush. I caught myself pondering various aspects, alternative possibilities, and different avenues to delve into this fresh dynamic. I began to ponder the future and envision what it could entail. I envisioned fresh methods of connection, innovative paths of discovery, and daring approaches to shatter every rule we had ever adhered to. And that's when the delightfully mischievous thoughts began to surface. Concepts that ignited a thrill within me. Concepts that sent shivers down my spine. Concepts that led me to reevaluate all my previous beliefs about who I am. I began to ponder the idea of doing this again, but in a different location. What if we explored the limits even more? What if we were to explore the possibilities? I believe I'll set that aside for now. I have a question for you. What actions would you take? Imagine being swept away in a storm of unspoken longings. How would you navigate such a tumultuous experience? Would you take off running? Would you attempt to let go of the past? Or might you venture forth,